Richard, thanks very much again for joining us. It's been, I think, 12 months since you were last on, July 2025. It's gone pretty quickly.
Yes, it has. It's been an interesting year,
to say the least. So Lakes Blue was unlisted or delisted. So Lakes Blue was suspended for quite some time before relisting last year.
Yep.
Maybe you could just give us a bit of a background on why the impetus to make sure that it was relisted and the importance, given the East Coast gas supply issues and whatnot, and what you're trying to do at Lakes.
So Lakes has a long history going back to 1940s. It has been in its life listed a number of times. The reality is, with the moratorium on drilling in Victoria, Lakes went through a very difficult time, and we have 12,000 shareholders. So we were always going to relist at some point. The circumstances had to be right. There's no point relisting and bearing the costs and then being delisted again. So that was decided to be last year. Part of that was raising capital to drill Wombat-5, which is what we've done in the last year, and what we're here to talk about today. And as a result of finding gas there and confirming that there is gas there, although we haven't flow tested it yet, we're at a position where we know we're in a better position than we were last year.
Yep.
And we've expanded the technical team to make sure that we give the well every opportunity of performing.
And we'll get to the specifics around future milestones and the rest of it. You talked about Mike and John here joining. Yes, when did they join? Why have they joined? And why is it an important time in terms of them joining?
One of the points we discussed last time was the fact we'd done everything on the smell of an oily rag. And that is true. And now we know there is 237 metres of gas-bearing sands. We need to give it every opportunity, and one man can't do all of that. You can't be an expert in everything. So we've expanded the team. We've added Mike as the senior. Mike, I've got two Mikes now, sorry. We've got Mike McGowan as the senior technical advisor and general manager of the group. We've got John, who's with us, who's a reservoir engineer. That's his specialty. There's a guy called Lucas who's not here, who is more focused on things like seismic and those sort of works. And then there's Tim, who's been here for the whole journey, and he's still part of the team as well.
And so, in terms of obviously raised money last year, drilled, found gas, tick, tick, tick. Share price has gone up, share price has come down. What have we sort of missed in between?
I think, look, there's a number of things. Drilling a 1.5 kilometre horizontal is difficult. There's no question about that. We're the first one to do it in Victoria. And we got to the end of it. It wasn't without its difficulties. Unfortunately, some of the suppliers didn't necessarily perform as we'd hoped.
Yep.
And, we're in litigation with them. There's no secret about that.
Yep.
That led to substantial delays. So the good news is we found gas in 3 separate pockets. The bad news is, in doing that, we've damaged the formation in terms of fluid damage, which is not uncommon.
Yep.
So
what does that actually mean?
In simple terms, it means fluids affected the clays that are in the sands, and there's been some chemical reactions that have formed a skin.
And so is that across the whole board, or is that just a certain section around the drilling?
Well, the important bit is in the sections with gas.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Right, so the very simple solution and very common solution is to perforate.
Okay.
Which is what we intend to do next, and Mike's in a better position to talk about that.
Here's the brains.
We've done it before, so that helps.
Yeah.
And all the perforations does is basically drive pellets through the skin and into the formation to create open fractures.
Yeah.
To let the gas flow. And that's all we want to do.
You make it sound simple.
In principle, it is.
Yeah. Well, it's not as bad as feared, because when you hear the first bit, it sounds like it's broken, but there's a solution to it.
Yeah, I mean, people forget this is a massive industry with lots of science and research. There's a solution to everything.
Yeah.
The question is whether the engineering and the cost is worth it versus the benefit.
Yeah.
Clearly, with the volume of gas we think it's down there, it's worth doing.
And you talk about the volume of gas. Let's just the overarching thematic around the East Coast, gas supply, and the risks around that. Maybe just talk about frame it in terms of what what is under there. Obviously, need to get it to flow. But how meaningful of a number is that in terms of the industry?
So if you look at any of our ASX releases, there's details of how we've come to these numbers. Yep. It's independent, and we've got a 2C contingent resource of about 329 billion cubic feet. And if you look at the recent release around the financial modelling of that, we've put a financial outcome on that, which is a large number.
Yep.
Now, there's plenty of risks in that, and it would be folly of us to pretend that it's not, but there are assumptions in there that may not be true, but it's a very large number, and we'd encourage people to read that fully.
Yep.
It is a meaningful amount of gas in the sense that it can supply 10% of Victoria's gas for the next 20 years, give or take.
Yeah, that's pretty bloody meaningful then.
It is, and when you look at the AEMO forecast for a gas shortage in 2030, and then if you look at the supply challenges that people don't put in those forecasts, like for data centres,
exactly.
It's actually a more meaningful number than people realise.
Yeah, you touched on data centres in the ASX release. How does that sort of fit in terms of data centre AI? Obviously, they need to be fuelled somehow.
Yeah.
How does something like gas?
So just to be clear, this came through the Development Victoria in the conversations we're having with them as to what we can do with the gas. Victoria has its own AI data centre strategy.
Yep.
The single biggest challenge with any data centre is firm energy, the consistent power. Gas is obviously ideal for that. Where Wombat's located, you can actually stick a data centre essentially adjacent to the field.
It's perfect integration.
That's exactly right. So, that's where the conversation started from. They've asked us for some information on a flyer. Giving it to the state government means it's public.
Yep.
So that's why we put it in the release today, and the associated financials that go with that.
And so in terms of future milestones, talk about the new team joining, assuming new program as well. What should we sort of look for, if you're a potential investor or current shareholder? What do sort of future catalysts or milestones look like for Lakes?
So the big one is going to be testing in late August, early September. That's subject to regulatory approval timeframes. But, all things being equal, that's when we hope to do it.
Yep.
So between now and then, we're doing a lot of work in the background around the long lead items, around the planning, around the regulatory approval, that sort of thing. None of which is particularly glamorous and doesn't necessarily get announced, but it's getting done. Obviously, the test results will be announced, and that is testing for the flow.
Yep.
So what we're going to test is how much gas flows in any given period of time. And that's the basis of it becoming a commercial flow and it becoming a commercial prospect. We're obviously comfortable that's a worthwhile amount of money to spend to prove it up because we believe it will flow.
And is that cheaper than doing the actual drilling itself?
Yes, it is substantially cheaper. I mean, you can't do it without doing the drilling anyway.
Correct, but you've already done the drilling.
We've already done the drilling, and this was always part of the program.
Yeah.
It's just been delayed by the technical problems that we've had.
Yeah, gotcha. And in terms of sort of maintaining the faith as a Lake shareholder or building the faith as a potential one, why? Obviously it's had a bit of a checkered history, on the regulatory side in terms of the moratorium and whatnot, but obviously the last 12 months, I think it's realistic that everything has a risk. Over the last 12 months, it sounds like you've got the data in terms of knowing that there's gas under there, and now it's just about actually figuring out how to make it flow, and you've got the solutions around that, and now it's just proving that out. What do you how do you view it, with a caveat on that you're obviously biased, why should shareholders or potential investors maintain the faith in the business now?
Because this is Wombat-5 and the first four also flowed gas as well.
Yeah.
So the reason for the horizontal, as we discussed last time on the podcast, is if you have 1.5 kilometre horizontal hole, you have more area for which the gas to flow. Therefore, that maximises your chances of getting a commercial flow. That is still true. That is what we're going to be testing in late August, September.
Yep.
So whilst the story has been extended by time frame, the story hasn't actually changed. And I think the risks have improved compared to when last time we spoke.
Yeah, I was going to ask
because we've actually drilled the well.
Yeah.
We know there's 237 metres of gas sands.
Yeah.
We have pressure that indicates, and John can talk to what the pressure in the reservoir tells us. So we have taken the view that the remediation action, which is going to cost $3.7 million, is worth spending.
Yep.
And that all things being equal, we should get a commercial flow, and then we'll have a developable prospect, which is worth a substantial amount of money.
And just final question in terms of partners, you talk about development, subject to success. Yeah, would that be a sort of strategic partner? Yeah, would someone look to knock this off, given it is, if it can potentially supply 10% of Victoria's gas over the next 20 years, it's pretty punchy.
It is, and the annual revenue is substantial. It's in the hundreds of millions. So, look, there is a large capex bill to be funded.
Yeah.
Whether we do that with a partner, whether that partner is on the pipeline and not on the plant, whether it's on the plant, not the pipeline, will be determined by levels of interest once we've proven up the testing and people actually fully understand what we've actually got.
Perfect. We might move to Mike now. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers. Mike, you joined Lakes just recently. Maybe just give us a little bit of a background as to what you were doing previously, your experience, and why join Lakes at this time.
So I'm an engineer. I've been in the oil and gas industry for 30-odd years. Started my career with BP. I worked for Santos, various other companies around the world.
Yep.
Most recently, I had my own oil company up in Papua New Guinea, which I sold in 2022. Been a long-standing Lakes shareholder for quite a while, so I knew the guys. They'd sort of come upon some challenges and kind of fitted with my skill set to perhaps help them manage their way through it. So I came and joined them in January.
And given your background and experience, do you look at Wombat-5 as a failed drilling program or something with potential that's where you come in?
Look, the gas is there. We know that. There's a series of wells, 1 to 4, that have demonstrated that over the years. Wombat-5, although it didn't flow the way the company wanted it to, it demonstrated there's gas there. Okay, so really my skill set now was about helping them to connect the wellbore to the reservoir beyond the damage and actually get it to flow. So we built a team of people who can bring their skill sets to bear on that as well. So we've got a very strong technical team, and we're now walking forward with that program.
And maybe just on the technical team and the team that you built, and this is a question without notice, so forgive me if it's not the right one, but have they done it before?
Yes, they've all done.
Yeah. So there's been these issues that they've worked on.
Yep. So we've got John, who you will meet later. Yep. He's a very seasoned reservoir engineer.
Yep.
Lucas is a experienced geoscientist, a lot of seismic reprocessing experience. Mike, the other guy who's come in and helped us on the drilling completions front, again, very, very seasoned drilling completions guy. So between them, they've all got the bits to overcome. And look, these are problems that other oil companies have encountered in the past.
So it's not like a unicorn that is like...
No, it's not some massive new different problem that just Lakes has encountered. Formation damage is a problem that many, many companies in the industry face, and it's about coming up with a solution to get beyond it and overcome it.
And so in terms of the remediation program, what are the sort of steps that are involved in terms of the program?
Right. So essentially what has happened is that the drilling fluid has reacted with, we believe, the clays that are in the sandstone. They've swelled and they block the gas flowing into the wellbore. So the first thing we have to do is establish a fluid that we can put down there when we're doing the work that doesn't react with these clays, and basically everything stays relatively inert, so the pore throats remain open and gas can flow. The second part of it is basically putting something into the reservoir that allows us to get beyond that damage. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to perforate beyond that, which is a very common industry technique.
Yep.
We are going to enhance the perforation by adding propellant, which is essentially solid rocket fuel, which energizes the perforation process further and gets the perforation much deeper into the formation.
And so in terms of the fluid compatibility work, I've heard the guys speak about that. Why have to wait for that? Why not just perforate immediately?
If you rush out and perforate immediately and you have a fluid in the reservoir that is still not compatible, then when you open up this new formation with the perforations, you'll have the same reaction.
Yeah.
You get
literally chain reaction.
Yeah. So essentially, getting the fluids right before you do it is really important.
And so you talk about the rocket fuel around the propellant and whatnot. Why use that?
Because it essentially puts much more energy into that perforation process and drives the perforations deeper into the formation. Okay, so that's what it is. It's basically a gaseous release of energy that just pushes things further into the formation. And what we are thinking is that the deeper we get into the formation, the further beyond the damage we will be, but also the more new formation we're exposing as well.
Yeah,
so
sense.
the more area there is for the gas to flow back through.
Now, Richard talked about the regulator and the timing in terms of approvals there. What's sort of involved, and what's the current position there?
So we've just we have just completed most of our design work. We've just completed the notification period that we have to give to stakeholders and neighbours in the area to let them know what we're proposing to do. So the next step is to now submit our full application to the regulator. And that will happen either end of this week or early next week. That'll go in.
Yep.
And we anticipate somewhere around a couple of months to get the
to granting. And again, you talked about the team, but who are the specialists? Obviously, we've got in-house, but in terms of the external consultants and advisors there, who are the specialists that we've got engaged?
So in terms of the fluid work that we're doing, we're working with Schlumberger, one of the very large oil and gas service companies. So they have taken core samples from previous Wombat wells to their laboratory. They've made plugs out of them, and all this fluid testing is being done with these plugs and also with cuttings from the wells also. So that's the specialist expertise we're drawing in there. The propellant perforation technology actually comes out of the US. It's been used a lot in the US shale industry. So we've leveraged off a company over in the US, and they'll be working in conjunction with a company, a perforating company here in Australia, an Australian company, and that's how we'll put together that part of the solution.
And in terms of execution risks, Richard talked about it earlier around, it's not a case of success or failure. It's just more around further data and understanding and whatnot. How do you sort of look at that?
So any operation you undertake has an element of execution risk about it. The job of the engineers that are putting that together is to mitigate as much of that risk as possible through thorough planning and risk assessment early on. So you work out all the things that could go wrong, all the probabilities, and you actually work to eliminate those as much as you possibly can. With that done, the key technical risk really is, will it work? So all the modeling we've done, all the testing we've done supports that it will. But you're dealing with something that's 1.5 kilometers under the ground.
It's not.
We don't have visibility down there.
Yeah.
So there's an element of technical risk that still exists, and if it didn't exist, it would be a slam dunk, and
we'd be off to the races.
Correct.
So in terms of let's take out the regulatory side in terms of approvals and whatnot. Once that's granted, when will I actually know when the workover has been successful? Like, is it a case of perforate, tick, tick, it flows, or is it steady as she goes?
So it's a case of we will perforate, and then we'll start getting initial indications back from the well.
Yep.
Hopefully the well starts to flow. These tighter gas wells can take a little bit of time to build up a head of steam. So it may take a little while for that to actually build up its head of steam and demonstrate some sort of stable flow rate. Then after that, that would be the initial encouragement, I would say. But then it's about measuring the stabilized flow rates, choking the well back, letting it open up a bit more so you get different stabilized flow rates. And that allows you to basically undertake your sort of transient analysis and really look at the reservoir's capability to deliver on a larger scale. And from that, you then start looking at your development planning.
And is this sort of a 12, 24, 3-year period? How long does this sort of play out?
I would envisage that we would really understand what's going on with this well if we look at executing, so let's just say we execute in September,
Yep.
then my expectation is that by November we would be able to communicate meaningful results to people.
Yep.
Obviously, during the execution, there'll be indications
yeah.
of, one way or the other. But it'll be the sort of September to November timeframe.
So it's not an extensive, sort of 12-month program or anything like this.
No.
All the hard work, that make it sound simple, has already been done in terms of the actual drilling to then understand, that there's gas.
Yeah, so we've got the wellbore down there.
Yep.
As you say, the hard work's done. It's now about basically doing this next bit. And in terms of execution, it doesn't actually take very long to execute the work itself. You're talking about a week to 2 weeks to actually execute it and then allow the well to flow. And then beyond that, it's a case of just the results.
And I asked a question to Richard around, maintaining the faith and why people should be looking at lakes, heading into this, remediation program. How do you sort of look at it in terms of, why is it the right time for lakes?
Okay.
Lakes Mark III, as I'll call it now.
Okay, so we know the gas is there. It is really close to infrastructure in terms of the both Gemini and APA pipelines. They're less than 20 kilometers away. Okay. There's a huge demand for gas. There's a predicted shortfall in the Victorian market.
Yeah.
If we can get this to flow, then there are extremely meaningful gas volumes in the ground. So from a production perspective, it can be meaningful for Victoria. And from a value perspective, it can be seriously meaningful for shareholders.
So basically it sounds like a no-brainer that you run this program to ground and try and get it to work. That, in terms of a development opportunity or a strategic opportunity.
It is well positioned.
Yeah.
And the key component is, can we connect that wellbore to the reservoir and get it to flow? And if we can, then it's going to be a very good story.
I know I said to Tim and Richard last time, drill, baby, drill, but now it's about remediating and systematically going about it. So
yeah, it's a methodical, sequenced approach.
Yeah.
Planning, execution, results, review, communication.
Measured. I like
Very
it.
measured. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
John, thanks very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we spoke earlier to Richard that you've recently joined the team. Maybe just give us a little bit of background as to where you've come from, what you've done, and why join Lakes.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm a reservoir engineer.
Yep.
I started my life at Santos in their operations and drilling and completions scenarios, and then went into reservoir engineering. For the last 20 years, I've been working for international operators and consulting companies worldwide. I came back to Australia in 2020 during COVID.
Perfect.
Yeah, just at the right time. I've been working for some Australian operators since.
Yep.
When in the last 3 or 4 months, I was asked to take a look at the Wombat well when it didn't flow as they expected. And I was asked to come in and join since then to try and understand why it didn't flow and to try and get it to flow. And
so what's your role in terms of, you talk about reservoir?
I'm a reservoir engineer.
Yep.
Ideally a reservoir engineer will get the gas from the field development plan. We work out how many wells to drill, where to put them, how to get the gas to the surface. My job's to get it to the wellhead.
Yep.
The production guys will take it from the wellhead and take it to the plant. So,
and given that there's already been drilling to date, obviously over the last 12 months, we're sort of a step ahead of where you'd usually be involved. How does that sort of change things in terms of your involvement now? It's about working through.
Well, right now it's about understanding the damage mechanism that's happened, right? So we've looked at I look at the pressure buildups and the flow testing and the well testing that's happened. Looking back at that, we've got a damaged reservoir, and it's really quite obvious to me.
Can I just interrupt? Is the word damaged sort of overused? Like, it sounds drastic. Is that just a term in terms of?
It's a common term that engineers will use.
Yeah, I was going to say, because it sounds horrendous, frankly.
It does. It can be. it's mechanically damaged is what we call it. It can be.
So it's not like drastic. It's not completely broken.
No,
no.
But understanding what's happened to the reservoir is your first step.
Yep.
The core work we've been doing, the fluid and core analysis we're doing with Schlumberger has been really eye-opening. And to me, that's a good thing. We now know the damage mechanism, and that's a fluid issue. Now that we've known that, we can negate that for our future workovers.
Yep.
And looking back at some of the Wombat 1 to 4, I see the same mechanism happening there too. So it's the same thing that's happened throughout the other wells as well. And understanding that is our first step to understanding how do we bypass it or how do we fix it, and then determining what the reservoir can actually deliver to us. And once we understand the deliverability of this reservoir, we can then understand how we're going to develop it and forecast production from it.
This might be a stupid question, but I'm not that smart. But in terms of joining lakes now, is it more de-risked? You talk about the damaged well and whatnot, and it's not flowing like we'd hope. Is it less risky joining now that it's been drilled and you know that they've found gas, or would it have been better, the other way around and helping program? Looking at Wombats 1 to 4 and saying, we might have a bit of an issue if we go this way again.
It's less risky now. Yeah, okay. I mean, the 5 data points we've got and the multiple, the solutions in the history.
Yep.
Understanding what we've got problems now, and you look back at the history of the other wells, you understand what's happened during that. Gives me a better picture of the reservoir.
Yep.
And that gives me a better understanding of what's happening downhole, and not how can we exploit the reservoir and produce the gas. And that to me is a lot easier than a green field in which you've only got one well.
Yep.
The amount of history here is actually quite exciting for me as a reservoir engineer.
Yeah. And in terms of the initial flow result, does that invalidate the original Wombat results?
No, I think it doesn't at all. The model that we had, the depositional model that we've had in the past or that was presented, it's still the same depositionally. We know the gas is there. The results of this well fit within our depositional understanding of the reservoir. What it highlights, though, is the incompatibility of the fluids that we use to drill the reservoir and complete the well, how that is incompatible with the rock. And it's all about the rock in the end, right? So now that we've understood that, we can understand a lot better about, how do we now connect the reservoir with the casing that we've got.
Now, I asked Mike earlier around the team and sort of experiencing these problems, or these quote-unquote damaged issues before. Have you had sort of any involvement with similar sort of instances where we've been able to get around it? Or
I worked in Egypt for a while for a independent oil company out of the US. And quite often we came across damaged reservoirs like this, and there is multiple different. And the good thing about this one is we've got multiple different avenues.
Yeah, so it's not just a one shot.
No,
hopefully,
right. And we've got plans also for should we go further with this? And Schlumberger is helping us with these alternative ideas that they're coming up with as well. So that's going to be good. We've got the right people working the right solutions, and I think the solutions will present themselves when the technical work has been done.
And we talked about reprocessing old 3D seismic models and whatnot. Why spend the money on that now?
Yeah, the Wombat 3D was processed back in 2008, and in the nearly 12 years that computing power's increased. The processing algorithms have dramatically increased since then. And so looking back at that and getting
different lens.
Yeah. So we've got guys out of the US doing that, and the preliminary work they've shot back to us is looking really exciting. And that will give us an indication of lateral extent of the reservoirs, but also the thickness that we see there. And while we've got 4 wells, 4 verticals and 1 horizontal in this, you really don't know with the deposition we've got how lateral extent we've got that. So it's pretty exciting. it will also give us an indication of how do we design the new 3D that we've got planned for not just Wombat but for the Trip and Gangle area.
Yes,
how do we design that and target the reservoirs that we've got, and understanding the issues that the previous seismic had.
And in terms of that sort of broader opportunity, in terms of Wombat and Triffon, how big could that be?
The resource estimates for Wombat in our 2C are about 330 BCF.
Yep.
The resource estimates in the Trip and Gangle are about 390 BCF on a 2C basis. So it could be quite significant. I mean, you're looking at nearly 720 odd or 720 odd BCF. So it could be it's quite significant, right near a processing plant. So
that helps logistically.
Yep, it does.
And in terms of a person with your background, what excites you the most about coming into? I think obviously the expectations are high, but at the same time they're still low, if that makes sense, because it's been sort of peaks and troughs. But how do you sort of look in terms of the excitement levels?
I'm excited. Understanding the mechanism we've got that's damaged this reservoir is a big step.
Yeah.
Getting the right people working on solutions is the next right step. We're doing the right things with the right people. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Solving problems is just what I do, and looking at the Wombat field, I'm excited that I think we've figured out what was wrong. Now we've got to figure out a solution to get that gas out of the ground.
Perfect. I was saying before, we're talking about the drill baby drill on the first podcast episode, but it feels like a lot more sort of systematic, measured, and touch wood, sort of lower risk approach, that it's not just hoping for the best, it's about using the data and the methods available to work it through.
And as I said before, what I like about it is we're doing the right work with the right people and going in the right direction. And everything's on the table.
Yep.
There are no givens. Everything's up for discussion and review. And so we're really looking at this from ground up.
And maybe just a final question, and it's great to have you as a part of the team, but in terms of sort of looking at the history, and I think it's probably just a reality of micro cap, small cap companies that are cash strapped. How important is it to have guys like Schlumberger, and experts in the field, with some it's not complex, but it's something that isn't straightforward and isn't normal, right? How important is it to have an A1 team?
It's extremely important. I mean, these guys, the Schlumbergers, the Halliburtons, the Bakers, those guys have a network of industry experts worldwide, and if they don't have the expertise in Australia, they will reach to a guy that's maybe in Argentina. So having that knowledge or having that ability to reach out tap into, and that history is extremely important.
Awesome. Well, good luck for the next few months. Sounds like it'll be a busy end to the year, and hopefully it comes up trumps.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks so much.
All right.